Welcome to the OmniTalk Fast Five, sponsored by Takeoff and the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The OmniTalk Fast Five is the funniest, fastest, and most fervently insightful breakdown of all the week's top news in the world of retail, and also the podcast with the best alliteration. It's July 29th, 2021. I am your host, Ann Mazinga, joined today by someone I've never heard so much excitement for as a guest on the OmniTalk podcast, and you will see why in this episode. I guarantee she will live up to the hype. The Executive Vice President of Marketing for Pacific Retail Capital Partners, Najla Kayam. And for those of you listeners who don't know Najla, I want to start, Najla, by having you give us a little background on who you are and why you have graced us with your presence today on the OmniTalk podcast. So excited to have you.
Thank you, Anne. So excited to be here. Retail is certainly a passion of mine. I've been in the retail marketing, consumer real estate space for the last 22 years, started my career right out of college and have really just been able to expand within the United States and learn all about consumer retail, real estate development and mixed uses and how to reinvigorate assets and how to add value to property and how to, work with various work streams to maximize results across the real estate spectrum. So really, that's a lot of what I do. I'm really excited to be here and to be a part of the show.
Well, we are excited to have you. I think that, one of certainly my areas of passion is just this intersection between retail and real estate. And those industries are just becoming closer and more closely intertwined. I think as we continue to see, people evolving spaces as we're coming out of this pandemic. And so I'm so thrilled to be able to have your insight today. We've got some pretty good topics, Najla. We're going to be talking today about Shopify deploying Shop Pay, Buy Now, Pay Later to merchants. We are talking StockX getting into beauty. Also, Najla, I'm very excited that we have you on the podcast for insight on this one. There is a developer setting out to turn dead malls and office parks into a new vocabulary word I learned this week called Urbanurbs and Netflix first physical store. We are going to take off, though, with our first headline. Najla, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So headline number one is yesterday, Twitter launched a shop module as part of a US test. So with the shop module, brands, businesses, and other retailers can display products to the Twitter followers directly on their business profile, not the personal profile yet, just business profiles at this point. The followers will then be able to scroll through carousels of product images in the module and tap on a product that they're interested in purchasing, similar to what they're able to do in what we've seen from Facebook and Instagram shops. This will open the business's website inside the Twitter app itself, where the customer can learn more about the product and make a purchase all within the Twitter app. Najla, we do this partnership with A&M Consumer and Retail Group, where they are retail experts in consulting, and they take their point of view on one of these headlines. They're going to hit us with a question. They're going to put us on the spot right away. They knew that you were coming, and they were like, we're going to put them on the spot. We're going to ask them a question specifically about this Twitter shop module. So their question for us as we are thinking about our answers to this question or the discussion we want to have around this headline is, well, most B2C brands tend to de-emphasize Twitter in favor of other more consumer engaging platforms. We mentioned Facebook shops, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. How, if at all, does a shop module on Twitter change your advice to brands on where to put their marketing dollars on social media? Let's start, Najla, by just getting your insights and thoughts about adding shopping to Twitter, and then thinking about that question from A&M of, what would you be recommending to somebody who says, do I need to expand my shop onto Twitter?
Yeah, no, I think this is actually really good. I think that anywhere where communication takes place, there's an opportunity for commerce. So this is actually something that I believe has been in the making for several years, and they actually shelved to focus on communication within their sector. So for me, I think, customers are channel agnostic. They want what they want when they want it, how they want it. And you want to be able to purchase something that you're interested in at that point of communication when you're talking about it. I think it's a great opportunity for influencers, especially that are connected with specific brands. And in that case, it's going to be up to the brand to be able to keep up with the product on the carousel that's being talked about within the Twitter feed. So I see that as the biggest opportunity, but also, I just think that might be the biggest hiccup, because what's on there being advertised might not be relevant to the conversation. But if you can match that up, I think that this has a tremendous amount of potential. And any brand right now, it's very exclusive. There are only a handful of brands that are able to do this. But anybody who has a shop in shop, it doesn't take much to add a couple more images and to connect to your online store. So for me, it behooves you to be everywhere where your customer is. So if you're active on Twitter and you've got an active customer base, I would recommend putting your dollars there. Just like any other social media platform, you've got to really diversify that and see where your market is and then spend accordingly. So I think that's all in a nutshell.
I could not agree more, Najla. I think that's so key that you said that something at the end there, putting your marketing dollars where your customers are. I think it almost seems like a simple answer to that question is, if your customers are there, then you need to look at that. I think what I find interesting, especially about Twitter as a platform, is that I think that this is a massive opportunity for brands too. I mean, it really needs to be a consideration across more brands than might have considered like Facebook or Instagram or Snap or TikTok shops, because I think you look at the utility that Twitter provides. I mean, this is where people get their news. This is, I think, up there with LinkedIn, especially, in the informal polls that we've done of people that we've interviewed. We always ask at the end of our interviews, what, if you could only have one social network for the rest of your life, what one would it be? And so many people, like business people especially, say Twitter, because it's a source for them for content, for entertainment, for sports, for politics, for everything. And so I think that as brands are thinking about this, they really have to take a step back and think about this more mainstream audience that has the potential now to engage with social commerce, and you're keeping them within the app at the same time. I think that's the critical part of it too. So
just like in real estate, you want to increase dwell time to keep them there, which translates to more sales. You want to keep people on your platform longer, which is going to translate to more sales, which is going to really boost their revenue. I mean, right now they have various streams, but this is really going to boost that. Advertising is a significant revenue stream, and I'm looking forward to see how this unfolds.
I am too. Yeah, you mentioned too at the beginning that this has been in the works for a while. I'm kind of surprised it took them this long to do it, but really excited. I think you and I will both be keeping our eyes out for, what this starts to look like as it unfolds to more partners beyond these exclusive businesses that have access right now. Well, some of those businesses on Twitter may even have Shopify stores, and now they can offer their Twitter customers buy now, pay later options through Shopify. So Shopify's Shop Pay Installments feature rolled out to all US merchants about a month ago, allowing Shopify customers to purchase products in 4 easy installments without interest. Shopify partnered with Affirm to provide the Shop Pay service. And they claim, the big headline that came out this week was that purchases made using this Shop Pay BNPL platform tripled in the second quarter versus just 3 months prior. Shop Pay Installments is now automatically enabled for all merchants signing up for Shopify payments. And if sellers do not want the option to have this automatically added, they must opt out before August 27th. Now, Najla, you don't know this about me, but back in my day, I used to be a journalist, a reporter, and I always wanted to be an investigative reporter. Like this is that was where my passion was. And then I started working in news and realized that doesn't get to happen very often. I was reporting on more like cat fashion shows than I was on anything groundbreaking and world shattering. But this story I read and actually found out about because we have a Shopify store. We did a local e-commerce site last holiday, and we got this email that said, look, we're going to roll out Shop Pay. It's great. You get more engagement. And that's the headline. That's what we're seeing everywhere. But it also said that if I don't opt out of this by August 27th, that it's automatically put on my store, and that as a, small business, in our case, this is not our core business. Small businesses who, may not have the experience working with buy now, pay later, they may not be familiar with this, but they allow, the Shop Pay app on their platforms, will now be charged almost 6% for each of these transactions, which is almost double what they're charged for credit card transactions on the site. And while this may not seem like a big deal, I think the argument from a lot of people may be that perhaps that gets me more revenue because people are more likely to buy with this option. It is a significant change in the business model for small businesses. So I think that's something that I think is important to point out here. Najla, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, are you seeing high adoption where you are of buy now, pay later? Are you a user of buy now, pay later yourself? Like, what are your thoughts here about this move from Shopify?
I mean, I think it's a great service if you want to opt into it. In everything that I had read, I didn't read that there was that 6%. So I think that that's a little bit misleading and not really forthcoming to share with everybody until you dig in as a merchant to see that. I think
Right.
that plays a big difference because it's about double the amount of what credit card fees are. So if you don't know that, you just think it's a service, I think that's a problem. I do, however, believe wholeheartedly in Shopify, and I think that they're moving in the right direction. I think that 2020 was their Super Bowl year. Everybody who had to get online got online, and I was a very big advocate and facilitator of that within our retail space and within our real estate space. So,
Okay.
we were shut down in March, and we went from decades of consumer driving traffic, of driving sales and having events and having programming in order to get people to come, to getting people to stop coming and getting people to shop online within our stores and to keep our stores operating so that they could continue to pay rent and be active and be part of our programming moving forward, so that when we did come out of the pandemic, they were there and they could flourish and they could survive. And so that was a big part of what my marketing team's job was tasked with, was to help these
Really?
retailers. And a big part of it was getting them online. And so Shopify actually became a partner in a lot of different markets for some of these brick and mortar only stores to have a e-commerce solution in sight. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there across the board at all
Right.
retail facilities. Every business by default will become omni-channel in order to stay relevant in the marketplace.
I had no idea that, I'm really glad you were talking about just how you were helping some of these retailers get online. Like, you don't think about the fact that, yes, that is a very important part of the real estate side of the business is, you partnering with them and having a tool like Shopify to be able to say, bricks and mortar only retailer, here's how you can quickly get your products online and become an omni-channel shop. Do you see that as like almost a service that like some of these management provider companies will continue to provide, or how do you kind of see that continuing as we kind of go through the next, hopefully post-pandemic phase here?
Yeah, no, great question. It's been something that's been at the forefront for a couple of years now. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years now ago, Pacific Retail partnered with a group called Share Rails to bring an omni-channel experience to the shopping centers and to give brick and mortar retailers a platform in order to have their service online and to be almost a searchable mall. We invested, I want to say, about 2.5 years of time, energy, effort, and money into developing it. And this was actually pre-pandemic, but the retailers, it was very hard to get them all in sync and to buy into it and to get all their corporate offices on board and to get all of their inventory loaded in and managed. And they just weren't all in. And so
Right.
when I had to reevaluate where we were going to put our eggs in our basket, basically, that and what the team decided, it just wasn't it. And so there is something there, although that solution, we don't have enough control over the retail landscape. Once you lease a store to a retailer, they essentially can do what they want to do within those 4 walls as long
Right.
as they comply within the lease requirements and have the right uses, et cetera. But you don't really get to dictate how they run their business. And so with right now, I think we manage close to 3,000 retailers within our facilities, there are a lot of personalities. There are a lot of POS systems. There are a lot of ways that they do business. Groups are consolidating. Lots are going bankrupt. Lots are expanding and shrinking. But I think all in all, they need a online platform. They need a digital presence. They need a brick and mortar space in order to expand and take their brand to the next level. And all of those things need to work in unison. There isn't that perfect solution yet. There are a lot of groups out there trying and piloting programs and doing it. I hope that one of them are really successful and can set a blueprint for everybody else to follow. But I haven't been successful in doing that yet. But I hope somebody is.
Yeah, well, I know we've been following that really closely. We've been watching what Adept Mind has been doing with Centennial malls, where they're really trying to bring that mall, like you mentioned, once you get everybody online, how are you getting them
the
to
concept.
kind of work as same?
Do it at scale. So you're doing it at a test pilot. You're doing it in one mall. You're doing it in one market. You're doing it with but adding it at scale is the challenge and the problem. And then getting everybody focused on that. And then the last mile solution to close that loop to get that product into the customer's hand might come back to go on to the developer at some point in time, but I just don't think anybody is really there yet in order to execute it and to have all of the retailers on board and utilizing the service.
Right. Yeah. So many point of sale systems, so many options for, like buy now, pay later options, pay for payment that you'd have to coordinate. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of where this evolves, especially like you said, with Shopify having such success with online retailers, to see kind of how they might come into that fold too. Well, Najla, you will want to have a buy now, pay later option for this next story. StockX is going beyond the sneaker market and into beauty. So Revlon released a limited edition collection in partnership with Megan Thee Stallion that dropped yesterday on StockX. The Megan Thee Stallion collection is limited to just 450 sets, starting at $40, which makes Revlon the very first makeup company to launch a collection on StockX, leveraging the platform's DropX model. Najla, first of all, are you like a sneaker person? Are your kids sneaker? Like, are they getting into these like StockX and go?
14-year-old he sells and buys sneakers and has been doing that for a couple of years. He's all over StockX. He's all over all of the drops. He has 3 or 4 computers set up in the living room at a time, all logged in through different accounts that, to go in and buy. So I see it happening in front of my eyes. I don't think that there's any shock as to StockX going into the beauty and the health and beauty wellness side of the business. Funding to beauty and personal care services over the last year has increased over 20% to the year prior, up to $2.3 billion right now. So these segments, specifically makeup, men's grooming, sexual health, and sustainable bath and body, are all categories that are up and coming that I anticipate will be on StockX at some point in time. After I read this, I actually went on StockX to go and see if I could even purchase any of the kits that Revlon put out. And originally they were being sold for $40. And right now they're reselling at the highest bid for $160.
I saw that. Yes.
You see the multiplier there on the value, just by making it limited edition. I mean, 400 units, she could probably sell that with one Instagram post. So do you really need this? Probably not. It's all about hype and relevancy and to really be the target of hip culture. But yeah, I think it's great. And I'm excited to see this all come to fruition as well. I mean, beauty launches and limited edition sets aren't new in the game. You've seen it come out of Kylie Cosmetics, KKW, various different brands out there. But I think it's now more accessible and more relevant, and you can really target a niche. And with Revlon, I mean, they're almost 100-year-old brand. So they've got longevity in this business. They're the first ones that are doing it. They've got, sustainability. They've got a foothold within the market to be able to try new things and develop new concepts and partner with different people.
And I love that you brought up kind of, how this category is booming, especially over the course of the last year, beauty and health and wellness specifically. And what is increasing even more so, and I think people don't realize, is not just this first drop, but also the fact that beauty resale is a category. Like people buy and resell beauty products, even used beauty products,
Right.
on everywhere from Poshmark to StockX to, Facebook Marketplace. Like that is a category that exists. And with the increase in beauty, the increase in resale that we're seeing, just multiply like crazy for over the course of the next couple of years, getting somewhere like StockX where you're bringing this next generation in, maybe for sneakers, but then they start to see these other products that they can buy and resell on here, is a huge opportunity for anyone, I think, in the resale market that's taking advantage of this. From the point of, yes, being able to make a quick term profit on these limited edition items, but even, over the course of a few years, I mean, I know, like, I've purchased things off of, like, way back when, off of eBay, like a scent that you like, or a fragrance, or a particular kind of lotion or something. Like once that goes out of stock somewhere, like you're trying to like,
Are you back to Bath and Body Works like 1995 ish?
Najla, there was a hand cream that was like a eucalyptus spearmint hand cream from Bath and Body Works. The same thing. I remember the day that it arrived, and it was like trial size. I think I ordered like 24 trial size bottles for God knows how much money, but I loved that scent so much, and it was discontinued. And so I just was buying it off of eBay. So anyway, we're getting down a rabbit hole here, but I think that the concept that I really want our listeners to get across is that, while, that, like, maybe Lululemon once seemed to some people like, no way are people going to buy, resold exercise equipment and gear. Beauty is another category where there is a willingness to buy in that category, especially when you start talking about, some of these higher level products like the KKW, the Kylie, MAC Cosmetics, those limited edition products. There's a market for that too. Yeah. So, well, Najla, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm really glad we have you on the show today, because I have a lot of questions to ask and get your opinion on for this next headline. We have Mark Toro, the developer behind the infamous Avalon Urbanurb in Alpharetta, Georgia, going out on his own to buy up dead malls and office parks and turn them into vibrant communities. Now, Toro has raised significant capital and is building a team of real estate veterans that are setting their sights on distressed property in the Sunbelt states to start. He said they're particularly interested in outdated suburban office parks that are not walkable to a town center as their prime targets, where they will be putting retail services as well as food and beverage concepts. Now, Najla, I have to ask you about this. Like, what are the components and pieces of creating what an urbanurb, which is an urban setting in a suburb, is what I'm gathering that smushed together word is meant to mean. But what are the components? Like, if you were approaching this, if you were out looking for distressed office parks, what are those core kind of foundational things that you would be putting into these centers to really make them thrive?
Yeah, I think finding those centers is first and foremost most critical. So,
okay.
And that's really dependent on location, right? Most of these shopping centers that are not thriving currently were built at Main and Main within these suburban environments, and the community has been built around them. So they've got to have a very good, dense location. They also should have a location that's growing, that has some type of population growth, whether it's on the finance side, the business side, the population for student growth, new families moving into the area. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success first off. And then also making sure that the financing piece is secured is really critical to making these developments happen. A lot of times they start, they stall, they start, they stall, they start, they stall. And so having all of those pieces in a unified segment is really important in order to blow through these and make them a reality. What you want to do is create this amazing community that's very centered on placemaking and engagement, and keep making, and making sure that it's relevant. So the leasing and the merchandising mix is really critical, because you want places where people want to go.
Is there anything specifically that you've seen, like, with this Avalon concept in Alpharetta that, this Mark Toro is so well known for? They built it in, which was kind of, they said lifting and landing like an Atlanta neighborhood into the middle of the suburbs in Georgia. Is it as simple as that, Najla? Is it like just making sure that you have the right like tenant mix and merchandising mix, like you're saying? Or are there places like, we're talking about StockX, we're going to talk about Netflix next. Like, are there key things that you would be like looking for, or maybe types of retailers, D2C retailers? Like, how are you thinking about what that right mix is? Because I think it seems like it's not as simple as just like, if you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not that easy. I wish it was. The retail mix is critically important. So the retail side of it, but also the other uses. What other uses are you integrating to create this mixed use environment? So whether it's residential, is it for sale product? Is it for lease product? Office, what class of an office it is? Is it industrial opportunity? Is it creative office space? Is it class A office space? How do those places connect and thrive? You've got this new lifestyle hybrid experience, everything from luxury fashion to health and well-being, hybrid retail formats that are catering to consumer desires for a really enhanced, multifaceted brand experience. It's going to take a lot to get various real estate professionals to buy into that, but the idea around showrooming and not actually being able to purchase something within four walls, and how do you attribute the value of that space to that asset when you're doing that? And so connecting the entire omni-channel ecosystem in some way. I mean, it's out there and it's going to happen.
That's such a critical part of what we're talking about with these new developments, that it's not just putting an outdoor mall in place. It's not just about the retail. It's really evolved into this lifestyle center concept. It's how many things can I get done when I'm in that place at that time, and how long do I want to stay there, and how many instances do I have to stay there when I'm by myself, or I'm with girlfriends, or I'm with my family? Like, what are all the things that can fill those needs? And it's not just about the retail, like the mall anymore. It's really about that comprehensive experience in order to make this a thriving center. We teased it earlier. So Netflix is opening their first physical store in Tokyo. So after opening an e-commerce store just a few weeks ago in the US, the streaming giant is ready to take on physical retail. They plan to open the store in Tokyo in 2022 with a host of experiential features like sets from shows and a wall. This sounds really cool, explaining how the algorithms serve up your show suggestions. They'll have a range of merchandise from their most popular shows. And unlike previous partnerships that they did with Topshop, Target, and others, the merchandise that will be sold in this Netflix store will be exclusive to the stores. So Najla, tell us your thoughts on this one.
I love to see digitally native brands move into brick and mortar. So that first off is a huge win. In order for digitally native brands, Netflix would be considered one of those, to expand and to grow and to reach a larger audience, they need to have a physical presence. And so this is a great example of that. Brands in general are also really looking to leverage their customer loyalty into new formats. So they're adapting and adopting brand extensions as a way of creating growth strategies to better connect to their customer base and to their consumers' lifestyle preferences. So you're seeing a lot of these types of solutions, and also pop-up type hotels, pop-up restaurants that have a brand name associated with it that gives that affinity, that also creates that Instagrammable, experience for people. And so right now, they're really embracing and showcasing their multifaceted brand experience. This will be a great thing. I'm excited to see what that technology is around how you get served up your content. Personally, I feel like most of the time when I'm on Netflix, I'm just scrolling, looking for content to watch. I don't have shows that I'm really into. I don't really watch TV. So when I do, I'm like, oh, let me see what's on. Well, anything you want is on. So you have to decide. So I watch a little bit of everything and I never end up watching one show.
So your algorithm will be all over the board.
Yeah,
so we could be getting any kind of thing. But it'll be exciting to see still, I think. They are making shows, making merchandise, and then making evolved shows off the merchandise and what they're seeing people, kind of flock to, the things that people are getting excited about. They're also now getting into video game streaming, which will open them up to even more merchandise categories. So I think, really brilliant work here on behalf of the Netflix team. We've also been seeing this in other categories. So Hasbro has been doing this too. They actually bought a content studio, and like Netflix, are kind of creating content, creating merchandise, and new toys and things, and then creating more merchandise and toys based off of doing spin-offs of these things. Like it's a never-ending flywheel. And I think, for Hasbro, they saw a 47% revenue jump last quarter in just the entertainment content. So just creating entertainment from, every toy that has existed for the last 60 years, and then a 33% lift in revenue from the toys based off of the entertainment. So they're just going to keep feeding each other. Like you said, just a really smart strategy, I think, to involve content and entertainment in this creation of merchandisable product.
With the rapid expansion of esports and branded and permanent assets for esports teams becoming a part of establishing really long-term franchises, there's some opportunity there for them to tap into those leagues in esports and to participate in that space as well. And then there's an opportunity for shopping centers and or vacant spaces to host these type of establishments on an ongoing basis, and to create that loyalty and affinity with the teams and the games and the place and the space. So this will all be really fun and interesting to follow.
I didn't even think about that before you mentioned it, but like the entire shopping center surround, like how much merchandising can you do for that one event with the merchants that are already in the shopping center, or in and around that vacant space? That is, man, that could just blow up. That's crazy. Najla, that closes us up on the headlines this week. I mean, I have so much to think about coming out of our conversation. I feel like we could keep talking about every single one of these stories. It's time, though, for our rapid fire questions. Are you ready to go with this week's Fast Five rapid fire?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. First question for you, Najla. Which company in this week's Fast Five would you most want to work with?
I'm going to go with all of them. I think that they're all innovative, doing really cool stuff. And they all have a place and space within the retail ecosystem. So I'd be super stoked to work with all of them.
Next question. According to Boston Brewing, who bet big on the hard seltzer market and saw a steep decline in stock as a result, the demand is declining for hard seltzers due in part to the oversaturation in the market. Najla, which of the following is not a real hard seltzer? Ranch water, PBR, that's Pabst Blue Ribbon, Stronger Seltzer, Lizzo Fizzo, June Shine, or Agua Fuerte?
I'll go with Agua Fuerte.
That is an actual hard seltzer. Lizzo Fizzo is the one that is not a real hard seltzer. But let me tell you, I looked up 40 names and I could not believe how many. There was at least 40 hard seltzers that were on the market. Many of them I had never heard of. Next question. Amazon rumors circulated this week and were later denied that the retailer would begin taking cryptocurrency as payment. What Amazon product would show up the most in your purchase history, Najla, in a permanent blockchain?
The Nespresso Espresso coffee pods.
Ooh, are you a big fan? I've always wanted one of those. Yeah? Okay.
I'm a cappuccino drinker, espresso drinker, so you just plop them in and go.
Okay.
I have like 5 different flavors. And
okay, and Amazon is your go-to for those purchases. My go-to for that. Next question. Walmart said it will pay 100% of college tuition and books for employees through its Live Better You education program, eliminating the previous $1 per day fee it charged employees to be part of the program. If you had to go back to school right now, Najla, what would you study?
I'd probably stay on the same path, but I would have probably gone to law school or gotten my JD MBA, just based on what I do now in communication and how often I talk to attorneys. I think that probably would have been beneficial for me.
All right. Next question. Shopify announced that they will now allow merchants to sell NFTs. What wins, in your opinion, most ridiculous brand NFT, Najla? Charmin's non-fungible toilet paper or Pringles Crypto Crisp flavor that you can't really taste?
I'm going to go with Charmin's non-fungible toilet paper. I looked at both of those and I thought, man, someone would buy this. I mean, it has relevancy just with the year of 2020 as almost like a joke, like a Christmas ornament that you would hang on the street.
Sure.
Right? As a little memento, but it was pretty silly.
I would have to agree with you. I couldn't believe that was a real thing that people were putting out there. It just goes to show, just because everybody's doing it does not mean that it is absolutely the right thing that your brand should be doing. Know your audience, people. Know your audience. All right, Najla, if people want to follow you and the work that you're doing, where can they find you? Where can they be following that?
Find me on Instagram and on LinkedIn at Najla Kayem, NAJLAKAYYEM.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Najla. That wraps us up this week. Happy birthday to Tim Gunn, famous for Project Runway, and who most certainly would not have approved the outfit I wore to my first Martina McBride concert. Martina McBride also celebrating a birthday today. And remember, if you can only listen to or read one retail blog in the business, make it OmniTalk. Our Fast Five podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news, and our twice weekly newsletter tells you the top 5 things you need to know each day, and also features special content exclusive to us and just for you, and all within the preview pane of your inbox. Sign up today at www.omnitalk.blog. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. And of course, be careful out there. The OmniTalk Fast Five is brought to you with the help and support of the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consulting firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the expertise, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Takeoff. Takeoff is transforming grocery by empowering grocers to thrive online. The key is micro-fulfillment, small robotic fulfillment centers that can be leveraged at a hyper-local scale. Takeoff also offers a robust software suite so grocers can seamlessly integrate the robotic solution into their existing businesses. To learn more, visit takeoff.com.